Welcome back to another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. The original Dying Light is a classic of the open-world zombie genre. Whatever it was that developer Techland was doing with that game, it just worked. In 2022, they followed it up with Dying Light 2, Stayed Human, and to make a long story short, it didn't work out nearly as well as the first. It's not a terrible game or anything, but it didn't live up to the promise of the original. They made a lot of unnecessary changes that took away from what made the original game so unique and fun, and the past few years, Techland has kind of desperately attempted to update the sequel to fix its weaker elements, but even with them doing stuff like making the night more dangerous and adding in certain guns years later, it feels a little tacked on and half-baked. Like there's a difference between getting the recipe right and putting more frosting on the cake. It wasn't the game many fans of the original, including myself, wanted, and after all those years, they still never really fixed the jankier, less polished elements of the second game. With Dying Light, The Beast, the development team seems dead set on giving fans of the first game what they want. The first game's protagonist, Kyle Crane, is back, once again voiced by Roger Craig Smith, aka Chris Redfield in Sonic the Hedgehog. The volatiles are back in force, with night meant to be scarier than ever. Guns are back, parkour is less floaty, vehicles are around, there's a more linear story in pretty much every way. The Beast is billing itself as the true follow-up to the original game, and its highly regarded expansion, The Following. Even as a sometimes reluctant defender of the sequel, these sound like they're welcome changes. But the big question is, does the game pull it off? After all, The Beast was originally going to be the second DLC for Dying Light 2, before getting massively expanded after big data leaks spoiled their original plans. At the end of the day, this thing is still built on the bones of Dying Light 2, so can it really be that much better? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and that's what we're talking about today. Dying Light 2, The Beast. And I'm happy to report Techland pulled it off. The Beast is much closer to the original game, for better and for worse, mostly, though, for the better. And while this game is still very clearly built off Dying Light 2 and retains some disappointing elements of that I'll get into later, it's much bigger and better than a simple expansion pack. The plot, like pretty much every Dying Light game, is pretty thin. But at least here it stays focused and it doesn't interrupt the action so much. Kyle Crane returns as a haunted man trapped and experimented on for years by the Baron, your classic Euro bad guy with a turtleneck. These experiments have transformed Crane into a half-man, half-monster who can become the Beast, gaining superhuman strength and agility to manhandle the zombie horde for a few satisfying seconds while the power is active, giving Roger Craig Smith a second opportunity to voice the Werehog. I'm sorry. I just like bringing up Sonic Unleashed. It's gotten a bit of a reevaluation, and at least semantically, it bears a resemblance to this game. I've brought it up literally every time I've brought up Dying Light 2. This is Roger Craig Smith as the serious Werehog. No, it's really not. You're a guy who wants revenge, and essentially, you have superpowers now. I was initially worried about that in terms of it being overpowered, but the game actually does a really good job limiting how strong this ability is for a while. Most of the upgrades are gated by story progress, so you can't get too strong too early. And I make fun of the game for bearing a passing resemblance to Sonic Unleashed. It also bears a more than passing resemblance to Jak 2, you know, the sequel to Jak and Daxter. You're a grouchy guy, he can go Super Saiyan, you're fighting an evil baron who lives in a big castle. Simple but effective, drives the action, doesn't bog things down. There's not a bunch of dickhead characters who constantly betray you like in Dying Light 2. It keeps things simple, and that is to its benefit because nobody's playing Dying Light for the plot. Like even the first game's story is pretty sloppy and awkward at times. The stories are more or less there to provide you a motive to do all the cool things. And this one hits the right beats. It's not annoying to sit through. It's not too annoying to sit through. Sometimes it is annoying, but it's not so annoying. But that means it is a significant step up from Dying Light 2. Another improvement is the game's setting, Castor Woods, a formerly idyllic rural village in the Swiss Alps. This is just about the perfect location for an open-world adventure. It's big enough where it feels like there's a lot of ground to cover, but the actual size is relatively small. If anything, it's less spread out than the map from The Following, The original Dying Light, there wasn't fast travel, and it's the same here. So there is, of course, the threat of being caught at night, out wandering around. But getting around also doesn't take so long that it feels tedious most of the time. I mean, sometimes it's going to get a little old returning to the town hall for the umpteenth time, but for the most part, the map is really well designed. It's fun to explore, a lot of visually interesting and varied places to visit. I mean, it's got a lot going for it, Castor Woods. The visual standout is, of course, the actual town. It's very dense, a lot of interiors to parkour through, while being satisfyingly vertical and visually interesting. Out of the more rural sections of the map, you can steal a car, you can go for a joyride. The vehicle, it's also going to be handy to have, but it's not a requirement this time. The game doesn't do something like the following, where you have a single vehicle to customize and upgrade. You're free to just grab any pickups lying around the map. Cars can be damaged and can run out of gas, so that's a concern, but the whole vehicle system is not nearly as complex as it was in the following, and I think that suits the game more. I think it's honestly better. The vehicle complexity thing was, if anything, maybe one of the only things I didn't particularly like about the following. It was kind of the whole thing, and there's a lot to like about the following, but I feel like if there was one thing I would change, it's that. I don't know. It's tough to talk about because it does a great job, but at the same time, it does a great job while being anchored in something that I wouldn't have done. I like this system, is what I'm saying. How you actually move around and fight, it feels similar to Dying Light 2, especially the combat. Like, it's mostly the same, mechanically speaking. Parkour feels similar, only it's a little heavier and more deliberate than the floaty jumping in the second game. Not a massive change, but it's noticeable. And I've waited a while to get to this, but yes, night is actually dangerous again in the Beast. I still do not know why Dying Light 2 ditched the most terrifying, memorable, and honestly unique part about the first game. Like, the night is its identity. The game is called fricking Dying Light. It's about how when the light dies, everything gets crazier. Okay? And then the second one is just like, oh, it's night in the open world, everyone. There's not as much light, is there? The light died. It died. Not fully, though, because, I mean, you can see a lot better this time around than the first time. It's more like the first one, is what I'm saying, before I get too far into that little bit. You don't need bits to know that this is better than Dying Light 2. When you're caught out at night is dangerous. Volatiles patrol the streets, and if they get a sniff of you, they aggressively pursue you. And when that happens, the only real thing to do is make a mad dash back to a safe zone, because it's pointless trying to fight these things. There's too many of them. They give you basically nothing in terms of rewards. It's just a big resource sink, which is honestly how it should be. Like, getting into combat at night shouldn't feel good. It shouldn't feel like something you go towards, you're trying to do. You should feel rewarded for not getting into combat at night. And to some extent, you definitely are. It's possible to sneak around at night. You don't have the vision cones in the UI, though, so it does make keeping track of various volatiles' location a little bit hard. And that means you will bumble into one of these guys by mistake at some point. There's a bit of a risk-reward system going, very similar to the originals. You get double the experience at night. There's volatile nests and special bolter zombies with lots of loot to kill. They only come out at night, but it's mostly risk, not that much reward. There's certainly not all of the zombies out at night. As I said, it's a resource sink other than a few of them. And the only real reason to go out at night is during the rare mission that can only be completed at night. It's just not worth the effort otherwise. And I like that. I know it might sound like that's a negative, but it's not. I like the system. They succeeded in making the night feel dangerous. It still doesn't quite get as dark as the original game. Maybe that's something with the Dying Light 2 engine. I don't know why they can't seem to get that part right in any game after the first, but again, it's better. It's honestly so much better that it's not something I would regard as too big of a critique. I mentioned the Beast transformation earlier, though, and since we're talking mechanics, I want to elaborate that a little bit more. As you kill enemies and take damage, you get a red meter under your health bar. It builds up. Once it fills up all the way, you automatically transform it into a killing machine for a few glorious seconds. This was the mechanic I was easily the most worried about in terms of this game. I thought it might completely ruin the delicate balance of the game, make things way too easy, and this is just not the case. When you do transform, it takes a while to build up, and it it feels rewarding. You can stop worrying about zombies for a second, just clean house. It's great. It's like a full-ass old-school charge meter with a special move at the end. Like, it's delightfully video gamey. Rare enough not to make things too easy. Kind of annoying that it triggers immediately when your meter fills up, so it could happen at the tail end of a fight. And I do also think the lack of control keeps beast mode from being too powerful early on. You eventually do learn to control it, and you can trigger the move at will, but it still never completely overwhelms everything else. You still mostly use melee weapons and the occasional firearm for dealing with zombies and the Baron's military forces. On the topic of firearms, I would say I think they're pretty well done here. The game gives you a lot of guns early on, but the limiting factor is ammo. Like, you're pretty short, and the firearms that you do get aren't always that effective against certain enemies, so guns are far from an I win button in the way that they were in the first game. They come in handy sometimes, but you're never just running and gunning like it's a first-person shooter. You're limited by the rarity of ammo, and I think that's a pretty good compromise. And, I mean, take it all. It's overall just a fun game. Doesn't overstay its welcome. You can get through the main story in about 20 hours. If you want to do everything, you could probably easily double that number. There's a lot of the usual side quests, collectibles. They're worth doing. Like, the side quests are surprisingly high quality. They usually take you to some new locations or have you do something that's actually genuinely interesting. It's not just a boring fetch quest. And for the most part, they feel on par with the main quest in terms of variety and quality. Some of the side stuff isn't great. The dark zones are the boring Dying Light 2 versions. They're basically small rooms with a few zombies in them rather than the mini dungeons that they were in the first Dying Light. Another way this game is clearly an extension of Dying Light 2, though, is and there's tons of material to loot. Like, you go through a metric ton of crafting materials. You really have to be a pack rat to have all the crap the game wants you to have to build new weapons and consumables. Like, everything takes a ton of resources, so if you're trying to upgrade weapon blueprints or just build a few grenades, it's going to cost a lot of stuff that you probably don't have. Also, like with Dying Light 2, most of the best stuff has to be crafted. It's generally a system I don't like as much as the original game. It's just too much crafting for what should be a zombie action game. Doesn't ruin the game, but it's just an area where the sequel's DNA is still showing. Another big, kind of completely new thing about the Beast, though, is how it emphasizes boss fights. To power up your Beast form, you need to take on Chimera enemies who are all unique fights with a health bar and everything. It's a cool idea, and I like how each one of these guys has their own grotesque design and special abilities, but they're all massive damage sponges that, while there are positive elements, aren't massive fun to actually fight. I didn't find them bad or annoying. I like the idea of them, but as much as the game tries to make them a big deal, they don't stand out that much. If anything, that's the problem with them. One thing that does stand out is the updated damage models, because, man, this game gets violent. You can decimate a zombie by cracking them on their head.
My fucking microphone has been muted the entire time.
Honestly, I probably can't show
Holy shit.
Pretty gore.
Holy shit.
Like, there's stuff we couldn't show.
How you doing, Steve?
Dead Space.
Let it be known that I was here.
It's way more here, or at least it
I'm
feels
doing good,
like
man.
it's
I'm
more.
excited.
I don't know. It's got.
I'm so keen to play this game that we're watching at the moment.
This game's version of a glory kill, and they're
So
very
fucking
over the top,
keen.
satisfyingly so, if that's your thing. I'll say the way you can slice and dice zombies isn't necessarily quite as impressive as something like Dead Island 2. The variety of damage isn't quite as high, but it is very gross. There's a lot of variety on display. Maybe not quite as impressive, but also not fully built around it. And for what it is, it's quite nasty. Unfortunately, while the graphics are pretty impressive, the game still has that Dying Light smear over the whole thing that makes it look weirdly blurry and washed out at times. It's definitely a big step up over the predecessor, but it does have some of the ugly.
What's this game? Dying Light, the
especially when you're in some of the
Beast.
denser locations like the old town. It also has certain elements ported directly over from the sequel, like these winches that you can use.
And I'm not playing, I'm just watching some videos on it while I'm crocheting.
They have the same janky animations.
I have a soft spot for
all the ways
zombie
the Beast tries to improve the
open
animation,
world survival
quality, and
games,
overall polish.
especially
There are
ones
still
that
odd
let me
parts that
fucking
stand out as less polished than they
parkour
could be.
and decimate the
Ultimately, though, this is a huge
zombies.
step up from
And
the
just give me a
previous
big
game.
like
It does a lot to ground
sandbox
the game,
world
the
to
design
explore
principles
while
of the
also
original
killing
Dying Light,
zombies.
makes
Like,
improvements
I just
here and
love
there
that shit
are
so much.
legitimately, like, taking the series forward. At times, you're going to be saying to yourself, it does feel like an expansion pack for Dying Light 2.
I love it.
It's clearly built
I like killing
on
zombies,
that
what
game.
can I
It's not
say?
starting from scratch. It's not a total overhaul. but it's a lot better. Like, a lot better. If we stay going in this direction, the next Dying Light game is going to be great. This is a great game. In all seriousness, I would call this a great game. I just wouldn't call it the overhaul that everybody is asking for. And that's
it's just also the game. The Dying Light games are just like
as an expansion pack.
Gamey. Like, they feel like games. They're not trying to be like realistic, immersive sims. There's a degree of realism, but at the end of the day, you do very gamey things to get things done in the game. So that's what I think is awesome about it, in my opinion.
Fun, and it does not overstay its welcome. You're always making progress and advancing the plot. You're unlocking.
Sounds like they made a good gameplay loop and a fun world to explore.
Probably is my favorite of the whole franchise. And what made your first Dying Light work so well is it's this careful balancing act between power fantasy and horror. The Beast walks that line even finer by introducing the Beast powers. And while overall I'm not completely sure it works as well as the original game, it is a big step up from the second game. In some respects, it does have improvements over the original game, and it's just an all-around fun open-world zombie game. I think fans of this series, particularly fans of the original game, are going to appreciate where this game goes. But what do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you like this video,
yes, I'm so excited. All right, next video. What we got? I'll be here a bit, still have to sleep eventually. All right. All right.
Silent Hill F is out next week, so how would you like to save 26% on it on day one? It seems too good to be true, but it's not. Thanks to this video sponsor, Greenland Gaming. They're back at it with yet another set of massive savings, so click the link below to grab that
while we
huge
do some
discount right now, or
crochet.
stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, let me kick off by saying a huge thank you. Last week, I spoke about some of the challenges that YouTube was dishing out, with basically every content creator I follow talking about a sudden and inexplicable drop in viewership. Well, you guys definitely showed up. The crazy like ratio on that video gave it a nice little algorithm push. We also saw plenty of new signups over on our website, thisweekinvideogames.com. No matter what you did, you gave us a nice little confidence boost, which, to be honest, we kind of needed right now, so a big thanks for that. That win in our sales has helped us push through one of the busiest periods of the year. Right now, I'm working on a review for Silent Hill F and Ghosts of Yotei. I'm also doing a preview for Battlefield 6 and another title
what's happening
I'm not
next
going
week?
to talk about just yet. Austin is reviewing Borderlands 4, and believe me, we will definitely be talking about Randy Pitchford's latest crash out real soon.
Silent Hill, yeah, Silent Hill F comes out next week, dude, yeah.
Reason being, he's a
at the end of
Skate
September
diehard, and he's been playing the early access for months now. Like, this guy really knows what's up with Skate, so do look forward to hearing from him about that one real soon. All right, that's enough foreplay. I'm feeling warmed up. Let's get to the news, shall we? So how's about that Nintendo Direct, huh? Not a bad showing this time around. In celebration of Mario's 40th anniversary, the show kicked off with a number of Mario-related
gonna be good. There's big horror games coming out at the moment, Steve. Big horror games.
Super Mario Galaxy movie. Easy to guess that it'll be based on the Super Mario Galaxy games, which I'm totally down for. Those games rule.
Seems
also got
good.
some of the best damn music in the entire franchise.
Seem good. How's Silk Song been on for you, dude? You're still kicking your ass?
Did you catch the little Super Mario World?
Are you kicking its ass now?
Possibly hinting at a Yoshi appearance, perhaps. Looking forward to Pedro Pascal being cast in that role. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is slated for release April next year. And speaking of Super Mario Galaxy, Nintendo also announced both Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 will be coming to the Switch in the form of a remastered collection. That's awesome, since those games are currently only available on the Wii, but what's not awesome is that the collection will retail for $70 US. Yay! That is truly the most Nintendo move of all time. Not even their back catalog from 3 console generations ago is able to lock in a decent discount. Still more Mario announcements to follow, one being the reveal of Mario Tennis Fever coming exclusively to Switch 2. As someone who's gotten into tennis in the last year, I'm unreasonably excited for this one. Previous games in the Mario Tennis series were a lot of fun, but this one brings with it special Fever rackets that offer abilities akin to those found in Mario games like Shrinking Mushrooms, Fire Flowers, and many more. It also brings the addition
I've been seeing a lot of people are very divisive about it. Like, some people are like, you know what, I enjoy how hard this is, but also I'm a fucking disgusting masochist that loves playing difficult games. And then the other side is like your side, where people are just like, this is ridiculously hard. I still love them having fun with the game, but what the fuck is going on here?
Names of all time. I swear the only company that's worse at naming things than Nintendo is Xbox. Have you all pre-ordered your
you're at like the
Xbox Ally Royale X Pro Series Black model yet?
Mid to end game?
Finally, to finish up the Mario block, we got this delightful reveal. Roll it, Stu.
It looks like the book has information within its pages about unusual creatures.
End game? Okay.
But it can't actually see what's written down.
So is this a new Yoshi game?
In to help investigate.
This is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, a new puzzle platformer that puts Yoshi inside a storybook. At first glance, it looks like
we have so little of the fabric left. Look at all that. We're almost done.
Interactions with the world that you'll need to discover.
I'm gonna have to start a new role soon.
Given here are these dandelions that could latch themselves onto creatures to freeze them
Oh,
in
what's
place.
this for the true? And I got the default ending already. Okay, nice.
Allowing Yoshi to smash through them. I'm really into this actually. It looks very sandboxy and experimental.
At the end of it all, through the crazy early game difficulty, would you rate it like probably one of your most enjoyable games, or
first got a very surprising but very
like is it better than Hollow Knight for you, or ooh, Hades 2 trailer? Ooh. I haven't even played the early access of this.
Hades 2 has been in early access for PC for some time now, but on September 25th, it'll be officially released into 1.0 for PC and Switch 2.
1.0
will have to wait a bit longer. The early access
September 25th, 1.0.
Overwhelmingly positive on
September 25th.
36,000 reviews counted.
Holy shit!
As well for this game commercially.
Holy shit!
It's only gotten bigger and better since. Man, between this and Hollow Knight Silksong, it's been an absolute banger month for indies.
Holy shit!
Warriors: Age of Imprisonment, sequel to the Dynasty Warriors-inspired Tears of the Kingdom spin-off by Koei Tecmo. What's cool is that this one can actually be played in split-screen co-op, which is kind of a rarity for a Switch game.
From the save level of Hollow Knight MMO. Oh, that's really good. That's good then.
After picking up the Switch
Bear back 1 sec.
You can play co-op between them with a single copy of the game. Not bad. Releases on November 6th. Next up is the reveal of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. This is the remake of the 7th game in the highly influential RPG series from Square Enix, originally released on the original PlayStation. It's actually the second remake for this thing, since it did eventually come to the 3DS. But obviously with the power of the Switch 2, it's able to get a more dramatic uplift. Releases on February 5th next year for all platforms. Fans of the Virtual Boy, this one's for the three of you. Nintendo's infamous VR precursor will see its games come to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, along with the release of a full physical Virtual Boy accessory that you can slide your Switch into. There's also a cardboard option if you don't want to shell out the cash for that. February 17th next year for this one. I genuinely cannot believe they did this. Like, what on earth possessed them? This is like when Sony re-released Morbius into theaters, and I expect it'll have about the same commercial reception. Next up was an interesting new trailer for Metroid Prime 4. Take a look at this one.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, so Samus is getting a motorbike, apparently, that sees you cruising around large, empty...
So what is the plan with the stream, then, Bubby? And then what do I do? Okay.
Spaces.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't like upset if I would keep playing the game.
Video said, quote, Samus's bike will either be incredible or the worst decision they've ever made. No in between, end quote. Which, yeah, I can really see that going either way. Find out for ourselves when Metroid 4 releases December 4th next year. I'm not gonna lie though, I'm a little worried about this one. It seemed like not a lot of fanfare for announcing the release date of one of the most anticipated sequels in Nintendo history. I mean, Kirby's Air Riders is a Kirby racing game, and it got a 45-minute direct, and it's about to get another dedicated direct for some reason. And all Metroid Prime 4 got was a brief trailer with some janky bike riding and a sneaky release date announcement. I don't know, man, I got a funny feeling about this. Donkey Kong Bonanza then shadow dropped a DLC in the form of DK Island plus Emerald Rush. This sees DK return home in the hunt for more bananas, and also features a new roguelike mode. It's available right now. It'll run you about $20 US, but from what I've heard, this isn't a particularly sizable amount of content. In fact, people seem really down on this DLC given the price. I mean, you can buy Silksong for $20, or you can buy one level in a Donkey Kong game. Decisions. Pokemon ZA is just around the corner, but it turns out Nintendo has another Pokemon game in their back pocket, and it's, well, I'll let the trailer speak for itself.
This land is just...
Oh yeah, I know this one.
There's a Ditto who's taken on next year with Resident Evil for release for Switch 2 sometime in 2026. Closing out the show was confirmation that Resident Evil Requiem will be getting a Switch 2 version, releasing the same day as other platforms on Feb 27th next year, with Resident Evil 7 and Village also coming to the Switch 2 on that date. Finally, it was time for the One More Thing drop, and it did not disappoint if you're into this sort of thing. Show 'em, Stu.
Draw now upon your strength. Hold fast to the devotion in your beating hearts. Hear me now as I declare that the
is this Fire Emblem? This is probably Fire Emblem, isn't it? What is this?
This is Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, a new entry in the long-running tactical RPG series. This time it's revolving around a gladiator-style tournament with a hinted connection to series favorites. I think it was still good. The franchise has a lot more potential than Engage was able to realize, so hopefully Fortune's Weave can get the job done when it launches sometime in 2026 for the Switch 2. So yeah, pretty good showing from Nintendo this time around. Nintendo has a big couple of months coming up, and this Direct reminds us that there's always more stuff coming after that. I know a lot of the discourse around the launch of the Switch 2 was that it didn't feel very exciting, but I think it'll be pretty hard to argue that with the likes of Kirby, Pokemon, Metroid, and a new Fire Emblem ship. And we haven't even heard about the next Mario or Zelda games yet. And let's not forget about the one we're all waiting for, ARMS 2. I'm sure they'll announce that any day now. Not a lot to report on outside the Nintendo Direct this week, but one story that was impossible to ignore was the continued saga of Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford absolutely crashing out in response to Borderlands 4's performance issues. As ever, Gearbox's worst enemy is their own CEO, who took to Twitter in an attempt to gaslight
Randy
us into
Pitchford
thinking
is
that actually
a despicable human being.
And if you have a problem with that, you should make your own game engine, damn it. Began with a thread of him outlining all the ways in which he makes Borderlands 4 runs at a stable frame rate on his machine. Things like enabling hardware scheduling in your graphics driver settings, turning volumetric fog off, using DLSS, and ending with this little morsel quote, "I know a lot of you are dead set on playing at 4K with ultra max settings and using 2 or 3 year old hardware. You do you. But Borderlands 4 and Unreal 5 are doing a lot, and for me, that trade-off for frames isn't worth it. I play at 1440p with settings super high, and I'm super happy with that trade-off. The game looks amazing at 1440p. If you're not 4K stubborn and just want to have a great time with high performance, please consider running at 1440p resolution. If you've got a beast video card, you're probably fine at 4K, but if you're in the middle or close to min-spec, I would definitely recommend making that trade," end quote. Thanks, Randy. Thanks for telling us how we should all be tuning our own PCs. Very helpful. I mean, to say that you simply shouldn't be running the game in 4K and that you're stubborn for expecting that to work, it's like, dude, what is going on here? What's happening? That is not how you should be speaking to your audience. An audience who very often know exactly how games should run on PC, and they know the problem is not their own hardware.
I'm with you on that one, Steve. I'm not very like Borderlands 4 is probably fun, but I just do not have it on my list of games I want to play right now. Especially with like we got Dying Light just came out, Hades 2 is coming out at the end of September, Silent Hill F is coming out.
That isn't even that old. Like, we're talking about
there's just a lot of other games coming out that I want to play. I still want to continue my Elden Ring run with the Pink Menace.
What 3 and 4 year old hardware? What were the specs? It's great you're offering help. Would have been better to build it for the most common hardware in the first place, end quote. Randy Pitchford then responded with a genuine all-time. I truly believe this may be his best work to date. Here it is, ready, quote. The most common hardware is a 4-year-old cell phone. Borderlands 4 is a premium game made for premium gamers.
Oh shit.
If you're trying to drive a monster truck,
yo, Ty, welcome in, baby. Thanks for showing the ass. Appreciate it.
Another user responded, quote, "Or just an idea here, make
just
your
doing
game
some
look
crochet
good
and reacts today.
AI upscaling," end quote. To which Randy replied,
Before I go to the gym,
"Code your own engine and show us how it's done, please," end quote. It's a good thing he's a CEO, because I don't expect he'd have much of a future in customer service. He then continued posting
shit, guys, look how much I'm almost done. I need to get a new fabric going. There's so little left.
Were having issues. He later followed up with another thread beginning, quote, "Every PC gamer must accept the reality of the relationship between their hardware and what the software they're running is doing," end quote. Amusingly, this got flagged by Twitter's context note saying, quote, "The publisher of a game is responsible for providing accurate recommendation and minimal specs."
How you doing, Ty? Nice to see you.
The consumer has absolutely no way to check how the game is going to run on hardware.
Oh god, what's
release,
happening?
End quote. Community notes.
What's happening right now?
The one good thing Elon has ever added to Twitter. And look, this is all extremely funny, don't get me wrong, but the sad part about Randy's tirade is that it's kind of overshadowing the fact that Gearbox are actually working towards ironing out all of these issues. They've already released a patch that appears to have helped with performance, pushing the game from mostly negative on Steam up to a mixed 67% at the time of writing. I'm sure that with time,
I'm about to even play the new Skate game downloaded. Oh yeah, the new Skate game. I'm just this video is just talking about it. Downloaded wasn't supposed to be there. Okay, fair enough. Cool. Let me know how it is though. Actually, because like I haven't played a skateboarding game in ages, but if Skate is good, I might actually pick it up and give it a try. Because I've heard some good things about it.
Passengers, while they're complaining about him driving the ship into an iceberg, I haven't had a chance to play Borderlands 4 myself since my schedule is really packed right now, but I've got Austin working on a review for it, which is sure to include a breakdown of how performance issues
Also, what you eating, big boy? What's going on?
Bell so you know
what you chowing down on?
Live. Closing out with a bit of Silksong related news. Following last week, the game continues to take the world by storm, though there's at least one person who's not too happy about its sudden release date announcement. Jonathan Jacques Belletet is the creative director and art director for Hell Is Us, and in an interview that we had with him on the latest episode of the Friends Per Second podcast, he had this to say, quote, "When you know you're that big, I think a shadow drop is like, wow. As the GTA 6 of indie games, to shadow drop something like this is a little callous. We decided to keep the date, and I'm happy that we did. We're still much bigger than some of the smaller ones who would have gotten a lot more affected and who decided to change their dates. Changing the date of Hell Is Us would have been a pretty big endeavor," end quote. He went on to clarify, however, that it would have been challenging no matter what day they released, given the speed of the industry these days. Quote, "Honestly, it's not just Silksong. There was Chronos, The New Dawn. It was a busy time. That's the thing nowadays, honestly. Getting a window where you're pretty much alone is impossible. 15 years ago, the mid-end nugget and buffalo chicken period, there's no such thing anymore. It's just constant madness," end
that
quote.
sounds actually quite tasty. Minus the 10-piece nugget. Just not a big nugget guy anymore.
Big releases around Christmas time. Capitalize on the amount of spending
that's what's going to give you the sustenance to do some sick skate time while throwing that ass back and forth. Go for it, dude.
Some even more so.
I throw my ass while I skate back and forth. I throw my ass while I skate back and forth.
Really pick and choose what they commit themselves to each month. So yeah, even if the demographics don't completely overlap between a game like Hell Is Us and Silksong, you see how a title with such anticipation around it could have greatly impacted the sales and morale of a studio caught in the blast radius. To be clear, I definitely don't think Team Cherry were wrong for doing a shadow drop release date announcement, but given that they were well aware of how much hype was surrounding Silksong, I can definitely see why giving more of a heads up would have been helpful to other, smaller games who have no chance of going head-to-head with Hornet. I do hope Hell Is Us is successful enough despite all of this though, because as I alluded to in my review, they made a really cool game that certainly deserves recognition, even in such a stacked release year.
Giving the nuggets had to cook them along to make them crispy, and I'm making sure they ranch sauce for the nugs. Actually, that sounds nice.
Quick lightning round to finish off, and Paradox Interactive has now officially performed their 180 on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Just in case you missed this one, in announcing the various editions of this long-awaited and much-delayed game, Paradox announced that 2 of the game's clans,
still coming out,
and Treador, would be separate from the base
game. Isn't that coming out soon? That's another game I'm excited for.
DLC or through the premium edition. The community backlash was well and truly fierce on this one, especially because clans are kind of a big deal in this game, and everyone thought that these new ones were kind of highly desirable, so it all felt like total bullshit. The reasoning from the developer, the Chinese Room, who took the brunt of the backlash, was that these clans were not originally part of the game plan when they took over the project, but they were ready for launch, so I don't know, man. Anyway, these clans are now in the base game, and they've announced 2 new story packs to take their place, which are well and truly in the concepting stage. But this community is probably very accustomed to waiting by now. This game was announced back in 2019 after all. EA's live service Skate reboot landed this week into early access, and it's little surprise to see that it's done fairly well for itself. Gamers love skating, who would have thought?
Nice.
At the time of writing, the game has hit a 2-day peak of 89,000 concurrent players on Steam. It's also available
that's
on
not bad.
and Xbox, and it is of course a free-to-play game. It's charting on Steam's top sellers.
Wait, this is free to play?
Which suggests that people are already buying fake
awesome.
clothes and sneakers. EA's monetization consultants were right once again, it seems. The launch day demand seemed to be pretty huge, as server queues of up to 2 hours were spotted by our man Stu, and the EA support team acknowledged as much and said that they'd take care of it. I mean, sure, it's no Battlefield, but you'd think EA would have a little more faith in their product. Like 89,000 players isn't that many. Something that isn't surprising us, though, is the fact that people kind of hate the new tone of the game, which is a bit too slick, clean, and corporate. Especially for a series
Bubba, I'm a big boy. I know I had to throw it down in the kitchen, but I really only make sauce myself, but I love cooking for others. I just wanted to make spicy grilled Parmesan pasta last week. I'm making tomorrow spicy grilled chicken Parmesan pasta. Yummy.
Positive at the time of writing.
Yummy. Can you airdrop some my way?
EA doesn't have a version of Randy Pitchford
bang it down under
by just posting through it on Twitter.
I'll be outside with my mouth wide open, ready for delivery.
Video games too. They've released trailers and release dates for both Splinter Cell Deathwatch and The Witcher Season 4. We got a good look at Liam Hemsworth, who takes over as Geralt this season, and yep, it is definitely Temu Geralt if you ask me. Meanwhile, the Splinter Cell anime starring Liev Schreiber has just turned Sam Fisher into Liev Schreiber, which I guess makes sense, but see, the benefits of animation is that the voice doesn't have to match the face. community is divided as always, but we'll be able to make
Dude,
up
if
our
I
own
could, I'd
minds when
send
they
that
both
shit
come out
so
in
fast
October.
because I know
Splinter
I
Cell on
love
October 14th,
it, but I
and
gotta
Witcher
see
on
how
October
someone else
30th.
likes it.
One video game adaptation you might not have known
Nobody
about
near
unless
me
you're
likes spicy.
really into
Really?
Steam horror games is The Exit 8.
That sucks,
This
dude.
one came out in
I'm
2023.
big
It was
on
made by a
the
solo
spiciness.
Japanese developer known as Kotoke
Like, not all the
Create.
time, but I
The
definitely do
idea
enjoy
PT's
it. You know, I
looping
add like
horror
chili
and set
flakes
in
to a
one
lot of
those
my dishes
underground
just for the
Japanese
sake of
pedestrian
it,
tunnels,
so I can add a
the
bit
whole
of a
idea
kick
being
to
that you
it.
have to spot anomalies and turn back if something feels wrong. Anyway, the game sold 2 million copies, got picked up for an adaptation.
making a movie
and
of
just
this?
came out in
Interesting.
Japan, and it's already the highest grossing live action film in the country for 2025. Apparently it's meant to be really, really good. It's not getting a wider Western release until 2026, but what a big couple of years for that developer. Has
Interesting.
anyone picked up the movie rights to Balatro yet, by the way? Taking a quick look at sort of free stuff time now, Epic is giving
Yeah, I'm
away
all
Sam
in
Frost
spicy
2,
love, like
which is
8
another one of those
Jalapeno's, but
Amanita
everyone
design
here
games
is
they've been
gonna
giving
go
away
crazy.
constantly for months
I
now. And on
mean,
PlayStation Plus, they've added indie horror and thriller games like
sounds like you're just surrounded by a bunch of white
to get
people.
you in the mood for Halloween.
Just a bunch
Notable
of
new additions
really,
to Game
really
Pass include
white
Saber's
people,
construction
you know?
vehicle game Roadcraft, Hades 1 as a consolation prize if you don't have a PC or a Switch for the sequel, Square Enix's recent action RPG Visions of Mana, and Peppa Pig World Adventures, which is absolutely worth booting up to see the
Thank you.
tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth.
Seriously. These vanilla
All right, that was London. Did you guys enjoy?
Can I say that on stream?
Right,
Will
so
I get in
what
trouble if
can
I
announce
say
all
that
the
on
latest
stream,
week
Ty?
outside of the Nintendo
I don't know if
Direct
I should
stuff?
read that
Not
one
very
out.
much, it turns out. One of them, though, was a new game to be published by Power World developer Pocket Pair as part of their attempt to spread the love to other indies.
Nope.
They put out Dead Take by Resurgence
It's
Studios
fine.
just over a month ago now, and the second title is
Vanilla
a game called Normal
Gorillas?
Fishing.
That's so
Suspicious. This is
good.
a modern retro fishing game with visuals very heavily inspired by the original Game Boy, where you go fishing and, quote, everything goes exactly as expected and there is absolutely nothing to worry about, end quote. I assume this is some sort of occult horror game,
That'd be
because as
bad,
we all
'cause
know,
there's-
fishing and Lovecraft work a treat ever since Trench came out. No date yet, but this is coming to PC.
I don't know
There's
what-
a demo
is that meant to say
available already.
Caucasian
Something a little less
citizens?
obtuse is Battlesuit Aces. This is the mecha card battling RPG that we featured on our radar
Caucasian.
segment
Okay,
a little while
thought
ago
so.
now,
Yeah,
and
okay.
adopts the anime stylings of classics like Macross and Robotech while using cards and deck building for the battles. There's also a big
mean,
focus on narrative
it's
and
true.
social systems as you build
It's true.
relationships with your pilots, and to top it all off, it's being funded
They
by
do
Outer
be
Sloth. That's the publishing arm of the
vanilla
Among Us
gorillas.
developers. The team behind this one made a game called Battle Chef Brigade, which was very well received with mixed fantasy, cooking, and mastery puzzles. So
Actually,
keen to
really,
check
it's
out what
funny
sort of
'cause I actually
genre
really
soup they
like
have in store for us
vanilla,
this time.
like, as
This
a
one's out to
flavoring
PC, Switch,
and
and
sweet
PS5
things
on the newly
specifically.
announced release date, October
Like
7th.
custard,
One important
right?
release
If
date this
I-
week for
if
European
custard
Excel
doesn't have
spreadsheet nerds
vanilla
out there, Football Manager 26
in
has
it,
been
I
announced
think
for
it's
November 4th on
disgusting.
virtually
I
every
think it
platform,
needs to have
including
the
mobile,
vanilla
which is
in
a
it
very
to make it
momentous
sound
occasion
taste
because
so
this is a
good.
rare example of an annual sports franchise actually taking a year off, even if they didn't mean to. Now, there were a couple of delays this week,
Swear
and
they're
we
all
weren't
two
really
shades
expecting
lighter than
anything from these
chalk.
games anytime soon. They still come as a little bit of a bummer. The first one is
Yay,
Slay the Spire
yay.
2, a sequel to the highly influential roguelike deck
Ooh,
builder.
Slay the Spire
Developer
2.
Megacrit posted an announcement on Steam saying they delayed this one internally. They're originally planning for release by late 2025. They've now pushed it to, quote, a secret Thursday in March 2026, end quote. They say it's just for polish
Okay.
reasons and definitely not because of developer Local Thunk had previously said that a big free update was planned for sometime this year, but opened up about being completely burned out following the game's release, success, and then having to do a big balance patch and then a mobile port. Do remember that Local Thunk was absolutely not a full-time game developer before Balatro released, and he said that after a break he's going to be easing himself back into development, taking it slowly and going back to his old hobbyist developer
Unless
approach
there's the
like he had
people
when he was
are
making the game
bland.
in the first place.
Hey,
Taking a
I'm
page
one
out
of those
Silk Song's
people.
book, he
I
said,
mean,
quote,
kind of.
it's going to be done when
I got
it's done,
Mediterranean
end quote.
in me
He
there.
assures us that it will happen. Speaking of things that definitely happened, what came out last week? Well, Borderlands 4 was the bigger one, though we've certainly covered that one plenty between last week and this week.
I guess I'm not a traditional
the good
vanilla
for just a
gorilla,
tiny bit longer,
though.
though. Like we said over on
At the end
Open
of the
Critic
day.
reviews were really positive. Maybe because all those reviews arrived before Randy Pitchford started tweeting. The average over there is a mighty 85, with just about everyone applauding some really solid gameplay loops and much better writing, though some of it
I
is
think
a bit
I
of an
can't do
overcorrection.
any
You just see
more
this
of
one,
my
4 out of 5
crochet,
stars, while saying, quote, Borderlands 4 is a great
'cause
RPG
there's not
shooter
much
with
left,
rewarding
so
engrossing gameplay. Some of the set dressing, like
I
the
need to
bland
get
new
ready.
characters and pointless grappling hook, take the shine
Blood
off.
Mediterranean
The sheer amount of
shoots,
fun
oh
we've
my
had with this
God,
game
yeah.
can't be overlooked, end quote. And
My-
those Steam reviews, yeah,
my
they're starting to get better too.
fires.
Moving on to Lego
My
Voyages, which is a
fires.
lovely looking co-op game from Annapurna Interactive. This one has also done really well for itself with a strong 80 on Open Critic, with fun co-op gameplay, very strong art direction, and a short but sweet experience, winning over a lot of critics, at least those who don't mind a relatively short game, since this one clocks in at around 4 hours. Here's GameSpot, who skewed a little higher, scoring a 9 out of 10. Quote, Lego Voyages eschews that candy-coated energy, and instead offers a game that is very laid back, made complete with a soundtrack of slow, synthy rhythms that match the world's dedication to simply hanging out with your friend or loved one. This game as a whole is less a day at a theme park and more like a nature hike. All this
I don't really
dedication
care
to
about
meaningful time
the rest
spent
of
together
it.
and
I don't really care about that.
So one of the cool things about video game Easter eggs is showing them to your friends. But what happens when that Easter egg is no longer there? Well, you'll be called a liar and your reputation will be in pieces. But what if you weren't lying? What if the Easter egg was there, but it's since been removed? In today's video, we're taking a look at 10 Easter eggs that were removed from video games. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about seasonal event Easter eggs like April Fools or Halloween. I'm talking about Easter eggs that were in the game and then removed, usually because somebody somewhere got upset. As always, if you think you know of an Easter egg that would have been perfect for this video, then let me know in the comments. And we are currently just 45,000 subscribers away from hitting 1 million subs. So if you haven't already, please help me out and tap subscribe. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. Right, let's begin today's video with an Easter egg that might have been removed because of me. Now, I don't want people to get the wrong end of the stick. This channel is a very small fish in a very, very large creative pond. But an Easter egg that I featured in a video last week isn't there anymore.
What
on
happened?
the Twisted Nerve mission in Ready or Not, you could find graffiti of this person on a door. Now, I thought that it looked like I Show Speed, but since then, loads of you commented that it was more likely Harold Hunter, a skater who died in 2006. And to be fair, that is more likely. Well, if you load up that same mission today, this is what you will find.
That was a bit. Okay. It's not there anymore.
So now it's just a door. Now, as far as I'm aware, this face had been in the game since early access, so why it's been removed now, I don't know. Of course, Ready or Not has come under a lot of fire recently, as the devs had to remove a ton of stuff from the game to make it suitable for console audiences, which unfortunately meant that the PC version was sanitized too.
That's strange.
I don't think that this graffiti falls under that category. Like I said, it's weird that I featured this Easter egg in a video and then a week later it was removed from the game. Perhaps it's a coincidence, or perhaps not. Let me know what you think. Now,
time to sleep. All right, Steve. Get some good rest, man.
I'm the guy that thinks inserting the thing every time I say.
You can catch me later on when I'm playing Dialect.
So what do you expect? Over the years, loads of games have tricked us into listening to the Rick Astley classic, which is kind of like tricking you into marrying Margot Robbie.
Good day, mate.
It's not a trick.
Good day, mate.
Well, it turns out that pesky legal teams aren't so keen on developers referencing the 80s smash hit. In the user settings file for Helldivers 2, you could find a YouTube link, which was apparently a link to a survey. Visiting the link would take you to Never Gonna Give You Up. And like I said, I always find this funny. Well, if you look at the same file now, the link has been replaced with legal forced me to remove the placeholder. I mean, I'm no expert, but I'm not sure what law was being broken by sharing a link to a YouTube video. And I, for one, am sad to see that there is now one less Rickroll Easter egg in the world. Now, this next removed Easter egg is one that I was surprised was even in the game to begin with, so to see it removed didn't really come as a surprise. In Modern Warfare 2019, if you looked really, really carefully, you could find something sitting in the trees on the hilltop map.
Is it Predator? It's Predator. This is Predator. Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to make out, but in the tree is a predator in active camouflage.
Hey there, little fella.
No, not that kind of predator. This kind of predator. Now, of course, Call of Duty has partnered with Predator before, even allowing you to play as one in Call of Duty Ghosts. But it seems that partnership is long over, as if you look in the same tree now, you can find this.
Is it nothing? It's nothing.
So the camouflage creature is now gone. It's a weird one because whilst the creature does look like the predator, it's invisible. So surely you could just argue that it's meant to be a reference to your mate Steve or something. Still, I'm guessing that Activision were pressured enough that they thought the best course of action was just to get rid of the Easter egg altogether. And I think that we can all agree that the real victim here is poor Steve.
God, why are we making the world so boring, guys?
I mean, Duke Nukem has made a career out of it.
All these stupid things, just owning shit.
But it is pretty uncommon for developers to dunk on games that were part of the same series, or in some cases, worked on by their own colleagues. Driver Parallel Lines had the unenviable task of following up the much maligned Drive 3R, after it had pretty much tanked the series' reputation. Released in 2006, Parallel Lines did a somewhat decent job of steadying the driver ship, but it couldn't pass up the opportunity to poke fun at what came before. You see, the gimmick of Parallel Lines is that you can travel between 1978 New York and 2006 New York, with the Big Apple looking different depending
That's actually
on
pretty
the
cool.
era that you're in. Well, at this location on the map, you can find a yard with a load of Atari crates. Atari were the publishers of the PS2 and Xbox versions of the game, so it's a cool Easter egg, but nothing special. Well, if you travel to 2006 and visit the same location, the crates will be replaced with this.
What is it?
So inside a dumpster where the Atari crates once stood are hundreds of copies of Driver 3, which is pretty funny. Now this Easter egg isn't in the PC or Wii versions of the game. They were published by Ubisoft, so I'm guessing they weren't as keen to remind people of Driver 3. Oh, and Parallel Lines isn't the only game to mock a game series from its past, and this next Easter egg was removed in record time. The original developers of the Tony Hawk series were Neversoft, who then went on to develop the Guitar Hero games after Harmonix left to create Rock Band with EA. Obviously, we all know what happened to Guitar Hero. Too many games in too short a period of time, coupled with increasingly more expensive and space-consuming peripherals, meant the series was abruptly cancelled. Well, in the recently released Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remake, you could see that Activision had plans to introduce even more instruments into the mix.
Okay.
So this box is for Banjo Champion, and judging by it being in the trash,
Banjo Champion.
The series wasn't a success.
Oh
Knocking
my
the trash
god.
can over, and we can see that it was indeed developed by Neversoft. And on the back of the box, you can find some funny placeholder text that reads, "This text is for the consumer. It cannot prepare you for the amazing game inside. This text is mostly gibberish, but needs to be here anyway. This makes the package feel more complex."
Yeah, AMG, I am.
Now,
I can't. You came at a bad time, unfortunately, so I need to.
Involved and complained that it was disrespectful to Neversoft.
I've only got this much of my string left, right? And I need to start a new roll of this to continue the scarf.
Could also be found in the 1 and 2 remake, but those weren't in the bin, so I'm guessing that people didn't care. Oh, and if
we
that
can switch it
wasn't
on
bad
over,
enough, on the
but I still got like 40 minutes of stream left, so I can keep crocheting. I just stopped crocheting because I don't have anything else to crochet.
Edgy humor dares do something edgy. Now this next Easter egg.
You're watching Adolescence? Nice. I hope you're doing well, MG. It is nice to see you.
And in fact, some of you might
I'm gonna continue crocheting. I just need to get that
you
thing.
have to fight Kronos, the Titan of Time. If his name didn't already make it obvious, Kronos is in charge of the world's bagel supply and can take away the tasty snack at the click of a finger. Okay, so he's the Titan of Time. What do you think he controls? Anyway, how this manifests itself in game is pretty clever. If you tried pausing when fighting
Playing
Kronos,
just now, nice.
this would happen.
Let me know how it is, man.
Where am I going?
That's the wrong side.
Not here.
No, that's
So Kronos would remind you that he controls time, and then promptly unpauses the game. It was a really cool Easter egg, but some people felt that not being able to pause a single-player game was unfair. And I do kind of get it, especially as you can pause at any other point in the game. Well, if you try to pause the fight in the latest version of the game, this
feel that,
will
though.
happen.
Excuse me? Time does not stop at your behest, it only stops at mine. Oh, but by all means, go attend whatever urgent matter requires you to put our clash on hold, you laggard.
Now, instead of using this...
So now, Kronos acknowledges that he is still in control of time, but he gives you the chance to take a break instead of automatically resuming the game. I mean, it's still cool that he acknowledges your pause, but I prefer the original version better. Now, this next Easter egg makes me think that sometimes devs go rogue and sneak something in that no one else knows about. And then when that secret gets out,
it's
all
very
hell breaks loose. Pun intended. If you were to head to the rune section in Doom Eternal's menus and then press the chainsaw button 3 times, this would happen. So the name Duke Eternal would appear on screen before disappearing again, which is random. Well, it turns out that this was a reference to popular VTuber Corone, whose community created the dog meme after Corone completed Doom 2016.
I'm a dog!
Like I said, this was probably added by a Corone fan without the rest of the team knowing, but when they got wind of
It's an hour of gameplay and then you can do co-op stuff.
I mean, I'm not sure why it had to be removed, but it was. Right, the final Easter egg is by far my favourite, and to be honest, I can kind of see why it was removed. During the broadcast
to get good at the game, you just gotta
you are told to find Leon
get to the thing.
When you find Leon, he is in bad shape, though his hair is still perfectly curtained.
Aren't you the blind optimist? Chris, he punched through and went that way.
Now, if it wasn't already obvious, Leon here is a reference to Leon Kennedy from the Resident Evil series, with the pair of them even sharing the same 90s boy band haircut. Leon mentions that Chris punched through, and you'll want to remember that as it will be important later. When you finally catch up to Chris, he's already a zombie, so you have no choice but to take him down. Chris here is a reference to Chris Redfield, another character from Resident Evil. Now, you might be thinking that this could just be a coincidence. Not everyone named Leon or Chris is a reference to Resident Evil. Here's the thing, if we take a look at the pair's dog tags, we can see that their names were indeed Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield, the same names as the Resident Evil characters. Now, some developers may see this as a funny Easter egg, but I'm guessing that Capcom didn't. Whilst never publicly acknowledged, the names of the pair were changed in an update, with Leon Kennedy changed to Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield changed to Chris Bluefield, which in terms of legal dodging name changes, are pretty funny. So that's it. If you enjoyed this video, then
The volatiles are by far one of the greatest zombie-related monsters of the modern age. Not merely a brain-dead monster acting on basic instinct, but actually a dangerous predator with unique abilities and traits that add a substantial level of threat and risk to playing Dying Light. Their introduction took Dying Light from your average predictable open world zombie game to a terrifying horrific fight for survival. No word of a lie, these things terrified me on my first playthrough. By day, bandits, basic zombies and falling off a roof are your main problems, and comparatively these are barely a threat, as long as you possess the basic of human intelligence and survival instincts. But come the night, and oh boy, the tables are flipped big time.
Oh yeah.
Night in Dying Light is not a place for noobs or the uninitiated, because you see, volatiles hunt you at night. Once the sun goes down, there is now a creature on the prowl, ravenous for your flesh. But while the origins of the main zombies are pretty straightforward to understand, the origins of the volatiles can be seen as contentious and speculative given the ambiguity and the confliction between games. And so that leaves us with a question. Where do the volatiles come from? So much to his displeasure, and most certainly against his will, I have roped in Mike to help us solve this conundrum today. So grab your meat cleaver, grab your flares, jump 100 feet onto a trash pile and miraculously walk away, and let's go hunt down the volatiles. But before we go wandering off willy-nilly into a volatile nest, let's provide a bit of context for those unfamiliar with the lore. Released by Techland in 2015 to massive success, Dying Light takes place inside the city of Haran, where a zombie epidemic is in full swing. The streets are overrun with the dead, there's a citywide quarantine in effect, law and order has collapsed, and the few remaining survivors are at the mercy of the local gangs, supply airdrops, and the dead. The game's protagonist Kyle Crane is airdropped into Haran by the Global Relief Effort, or GRE for short, to recover a document pertaining
Honestly,
to the
Bobby, you'll
virus
probably
that caused the
keep playing
epidemic
and want to
that was
keep
stolen
playing
by a
it.
nut.
And then the co-op is done the way I think it is, you can just join my... I don't see it adjusting anything. You have to just check. Might be because of the resolution setting. You might not be able to do ultra wide. I don't know. Might have to just do 1440.
Job called Kadir Suleiman, who now goes
But
by
yeah,
the
I think
name
you'll be
Rice,
able
a former
to
military colonel
just do
tasked with
your
maintaining law
story
and
stuff
order
and then jump
turned
into my
criminal
story
kingpin
beats if you don't mind
slash
repeating the
warlord
story stuff.
After the GRE rejected his request
Because
to
I was thinking I'd just do the
evacuate his
same thing with
disabled
you
younger
when
brother, who
you
was
go
subsequently
climbing, then I
killed
can
by
just
the
hop into
infected.
your story
Before
bit.
abandoning his position protecting a group of scientists who were working on a cure, he stole a GRE file that revealed the GRE
I don't
was
mind
secretly working on a
continuing.
way to
The game just
weaponize
looks
the
fun, you
virus
know.
to sell to the highest bidder. The events of the game initially follow Carl Crane's journey to recover the file. However, as the story progresses, so too does Carl's empathy for the struggling survivors and his hatred and rejection of the GRE, who show nothing but complete disdain, negligence and indifference for the suffering of the people within the zone, their only goal being to recover the file to cover up their own involvement.
That Rise is our man, so if you find an airdrop containing Antizin, destroy it.
But there are civilians depending on this stuff.
Our plan is focused on the greater good. Remember that.
Rice publishes the details of the document for the world to see and then makes a deal with the GRE, offering to give them the data on a cure for the virus in exchange for being evacuated. Kyle kills Rice and then, having no trust whatsoever for the GRE, tell them to go and do one, vowing that he will take the data to one of the scientists inside the zone to develop a cure themselves to help the people. After the research hits a brick wall, Kyle heads off to the countryside following a tip-off that the locals have developed a way of hiding from the infected that leads into a whole world of cults and worship and all that jazz. The cure, in fact, turns out to be an early military experiment with the virus that, instead of curing people, it does hide them, but all for the low price of slowly becoming a volatile as a result of exposure. Kyle meets a woman called Jasmine, aka the mother, who drank the serum believing it was a cure after she was bitten by the infected, who then turned into a sentient volatile. Jasmine tells Kyle to detonate a nuclear bomb, the final failsafe, and kill everyone, wiping out the virus for good and ultimately saving humanity. Kyle decides to throw all logic and reason out of the window and is like, I choose violence, and kills Jasmine, but not before she can force the same serum down Kyle's throat. Kyle then turns into a volatile, a new, much stronger strain of the virus breaches containment, the world ends, humanity is driven to near extinction and is reduced to one tiny city called Villador in a world of zombies.
Like I said, but you might just have to do it without ultra-wide.
Good job, Kyle. Really taking one for the team. Now that is where I'm calling time on the lore, but there are a lot of detailed videos out there if you want a more in-depth analysis of the intricacies of the lore and the events of Dying Light 1 and 2. Now let's move on to the virus. The Haran virus is a variation of rabies, but with a distinct additional affliction.
The variation of rabies.
Infected's intolerance to ultraviolet light. There is conflicting data on the origins of the virus. A local scientist inside the quarantine zone believed food contamination was the culprit, while Jasmine, the sentient volatile from the following DLC, claimed it to be a military bioweapon experiment that got out. You can also find a UFO crashed in the sea, so maybe it was aliens. The Haran virus, much like any other zombie virus, is spread by the viral cells being transferred into the bloodstream of another person. So let's bring in Mike. He's just been bitten, the virus is in his bloodstream and he has fortunately managed to escape being devoured. Sadly for him, but most fortunately for us, his mutation has now begun. Now, props to Mike's body, it will put up a very strong defense to try and destroy the virus. He'll develop severe flu-like symptoms as a raging fever tries and fails to cook the virus out. White blood cells will flood his system, he'll start vomiting and he'll begin to grow weaker as more and more of his energy is expended in a futile effort to try and fight this thing. Next come seizures, nausea and loss of consciousness. Fortunately, a drug very creatively named the anti-zombie injection, or antizin for short, exists that can suppress the virus for a time. This is not so much a permanent cure, think of it as more of a palliative. Antizin won't flush the virus out of Mike's system, but it will keep him going and keep the symptoms at bay. However, if Mike progresses past the seizure stage and he hasn't received antizin, then it is game over. He is now a viral, kind of like a runner from The Last of Us. There is no way back now. The final few internal barriers his body have put up fall away like dominoes, and Mike is now a zombie. Now, there are so many different zombie types in the Dying Light franchise. There are biters, bloated spitters called toads, this dude who blows up in your face, and this fucking monstrosity, to list just a few. But today, we are talking about the volatiles. The volatiles are a late-stage result of those infected with the Haran virus. They are some of the most aggressive and the deadliest creatures in the entire video game series, because while some enemies might be bigger and have certain perks or specialities, the volatiles combine all of them into one, and they are everywhere come the night. Just their appearance is intimidating enough. They are tall, broad, and absolutely shredded. Their mouth is split in two.
Okay, the vampires from Blade, they kind of do. They're fucking creepy, man. The volatiles are probably the most scary zombie variant that's been created in any zombie lore, in my opinion.
Previous lives, such as clothes and accessories to remind a player of their humanity, the volatiles have nothing. They have been completely dehumanized.
Just juke them? Bruh, you can't juke these things. They're like 3 times faster than a human. They're fucking crazy.
Extreme reaction to sunlight, specifically UV light. This makes nighttime exploration extremely dangerous, as these things will be patrolling, looking for people to devour.
Yes, you can.
Now, while in Dying Light 1, they just
I know you
patrolled
can,
at
but
ground level, making carefree
there's a
rooftop
secret.
travel possible.
Is it the
Dying
grappling
Light 2,
hook?
They also started patrolling the rooftops,
It's getting good. I think it's the grappling hook as well is also very helpful in getting away from these guys. The grappling hook's kind of busted in Dying Light.
Predatory instincts, coupled with an oversupply of adrenaline. Fortunately, this results in frequent, deep, loud breathing, and because these big boys are so good...
Yeah, it does. The grappling hook's crazy. Have you seen in Dying Light the Beast, you can activate Beast Mode, which enhances your power, your speed, everything, and then you literally become Spider-Man with the grappling hook tie. Like, you can grapple, like, horizontally, you can grapple down towards things, you can grapple onto trees, and you just don't leave the air. You're constantly just in the air grappling things. Like, you can get across the map with the grappling hook while in beast mode really fucking fast. I know, it's crazy. It's insanity, dude.
Which does provide some advanced warning. Delving into the predatory instincts, these things are the evolutionary king of carnivorous predators and are perfectly adapted to locating their prey. They have night vision, they have advanced hearing, and they have a highly advanced
Does Just Cause with Zombies? It kind of is Just Cause with Zombies, yeah. That's why I'm so excited for it. It's just going to be a big, fun sandbox to explore and become insanely powerful in.
First thing it's going to do is release this terrifying screech to alert all the other nearby volatiles and virals there is fresh meat here. If he isn't running by now, he's an idiot and he'll be swiftly ripped to shreds. If he does run, he'll die tired. This thing can outrun him. Once it gets close enough, it will pounce on him and those mandibles will bite his face off. If he tries to climb a building to escape, the volatiles can expel an acidic phlegm from their mouths at tremendous speed and distance to knock him down and melt his skin off his bones for good measure. If you encounter a volatile, it really comes down to fight or flight, and neither guarantees success. If you choose to fight, you're going to need some serious firepower, otherwise you might as well hit it with a stick. If you choose to run, you're going to need UV lights and firecrackers to break the pursuit and distract them. In both cases, it's rarely ever a one-on-one fight either, more like a 4-on-1 at least. And that is just the base level volatile. There are even stronger variations. Dying Light 1 saw the introduction of the blue volatile with the DLC release. These ones are even further far with spiked thick carapaces, poking ribs, bulging blue growths and veins, and an even more
also, in Dying Light the Beast, I don't remember if they did this in... I think they kind of did it in Dying Light 2. I don't remember if they did it in Dying Light 1, but there's volatile nests in Dying Light the Beast for you to find during nighttime. And they're like actual events for you to do in the open world. The blue ones are the reason I quit Dying Light. Well, get ready for some crazy shit in Dying Light the Beast, dude. I've heard there's some insane variants of volatiles in that game.
They look even less human somehow.
Because they made the night as scary as they could in Dying Light the Beast.
They are faster, stronger, more resistant to damage and firearms.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
With the base level volatiles, you could cover yourself in zombie guts as camouflage to hide from them, but that little trick doesn't work on these ones. And just to make survival even more challenging,
yeah, the blue ones are fucked. The blue ones are intimidating as shit.
Making them a
like, they will fuck you up.
Encountered. Best not to, really. Dying Light 2 offers up the Tyrant volatile above its base level THV variant. This fucker breaks the mold. First and foremost, it's immune to UV light. Yep, you can forget about UV traps and lights and even the
Tyrant volatile? I don't remember this one at all.
They are much larger and much more formidable. They act
Sounds fucking intimidating as shit though.
They will pounce, regularly move around on all fours, they can chain their attacks, they are much more agile, and if they do get on top of you, your health will fall off a cliff. And their roar will summon in tons of base level volatiles just to make the situation even worse. So given just how drastically different and how much more aggressive the volatiles are compared to the regular zombies, we have to ask, where did the volatiles come from? Well, I'm going to tell you, and it's not pleasant. So the process of becoming a volatile differs greatly between Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2. In Dying Light 1, two ways are presented to us to demonstrate where the volatiles come from. There is firstly what I guess you could call the natural way. So right at the start of the epidemic, before the volatiles were much of a thing, the early zombies began dragging human carcasses into dark places to consume away from the sunlight. Now, some of these carcasses weren't in fact dead, they were still alive, and when a living human is dragged into a Haran virus flesh pit, some crazy shit goes down. The captured human undergoes a sort of gestation. Think of it as a form of metamorphosis.
Ew.
Like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly.
Yeah,
so
like a cocoon.
The human will firstly begin to undergo a series of mutations to keep it affixed to the gore pit it is in. The virus is already in their system, so this is nothing to do with prolonged exposure, but rather to keep the captive there while the mutation continues. If they weren't, they might wander off into the sunlight and the UV light would stymie the process. Volatiles need a total lack of UV light to be produced. Now, isolated and restrained, the main mutations can occur. The muscles will enlarge, the senses will improve, the ribs will snap and deform, and the whole time the captive is still alive and cognizant of what is happening. The actual time it takes to
That's
change
crazy.
is unknown, but the end result is always the same. The human that once was is gone. There is not a single piece of anything human left in them. There is no light behind the eyes, there is no voice, no memories, nothing. Just a feral animal. There is one particularly gruesome scene from the following DLC where a human mid-transformation is bathed in sunlight and is literally being cooked alive. He is part volatile, but because the UV light has corrupted the transition, he retains part of his humanity.
Oh my god.
Holy fuck.
Jesus, man, that's crazy.
The second way to become a volatile in Dying Light 1 is quite a special and unique one, and by far not typical. The military were experimenting on the Haran virus to create a bioweapon before the outbreak occurred. They created a number of vials containing serums of this early bioweapon. Now, when the serum is converted to a gas and inhaled, it will very slowly begin turning a person into a volatile. The process takes a long time, but it does happen.
But we don't have to drink it with just the mist.
It doesn't matter. Just listen. You've been breathing the mist. It will take longer, but you're already changing into a monster such as myself.
There is an alternative way, however, of consuming this serum that creates something extraordinary. A character called the Mother in the DLC was bitten by the dead and was close to turning. She drank one of the vials wrongly, believing it to be a cure, and became a sentient volatile, capable of telepathy. In the light, her mind was her own, but in darkness, her volatile nature took over. Dying Light 2 changes the formula up a bit on the creation of volatiles. The THV variant volatiles are created from virals, which is the first stage of full-on zombie mode, as we saw Mike demonstrate a while back. A viral can then go down one of two career paths. If it stays exposed to the sunlight for too long, it just becomes a mindless biter roaming the streets, and given how they make up a massive majority of the zombies that we see, that is what most do. However, if a viral becomes a full-on basement dweller and stays away from any forms of UV light, it then turns into a volatile, and from there, it can further evolve and get a promotion into a more specialized form of infected, such as a goon or a revenant. However, there is not only one form of volatile in the second installment. A volatile can level itself up by becoming a volatile tyrant. To do this, it has to find a very dark place and then shroud itself in this slimy organic cocoon, where it then gradually transforms into this much larger, more animalistic, much deadlier form of volatile, the tyrant volatile. And that is where the volatiles come from. Now, as I write this, the next Dying Light is just around the corner and Carl Crane is back, and I for one cannot wait to see where Dying Light takes the volatiles next. You can thank Mike for his pain and suffering by sending
Amazing. Amazing. It's gonna be so good, dude. Alright, we just need a short video because I am 24 things I never found in Dying Light. Huh. I gotta go to the gym soon, so just need a short video. Do 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 do. Boop 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 boop. Just so much doo-doo. There's just so much doo-doo. Let's put this
The
on.
Dying Light
We're gonna be
iceberg.
playing Dying Light anyway,
I always
right?
wondered
So
what
why not?
game
Fuck
would
it.
be the next iceberg I'd cover. And due to me getting a lot of comments about this over time,
Got some
and because
what on?
Dying Light absolutely slaps, I figured now would be a good time to take a look at this succulent game series. We all know Dying Light, and we all know
Succulent?
Iceberg Chars, and it's one of those series that's perfect to get an iceberg chart dedicated to it, detailing all of its trivia, Easter eggs, secrets, lore, facts, and talk about how wild these games are. So I took it upon myself to make one because I've scoured the internet like a nomad, trying to look for one that someone's made and posted, and that I could start researching, but I just couldn't find anything. So I said, fine, I'll do it myself. This is going to cover all of the Dying Light games, 1, 2, and the following, which the following isn't a standalone game, but it basically is. And if you find yourself enjoying this video at any point, hitting the like button will go a long way. Grab a drink or a snack as we take a deep dive into the Dying Light iceberg. Kyle Crane. Look, it would have felt weird to have started our deep dive with literally anything other than this Giga Chad. Kyle Crane is the protagonist of the first game and the upcoming one, The Beast. He was an agent of the GRE, sent to retrieve a file that was stolen from them in the quarantine zone of Haran. This, however, ended up changing the guy for the better as he became more connected to the survivors and decided to aid in their struggles. This guy is to Dying Light what V is to Cyberpunk. One person that comes in and becomes a force of nature by the end. That can't be stopped, only feared. He became a combat, parkour, and survival expert, carrying Haran's survivors like a 1v5 ranked siege game. Just when we thought he died at the end of the following, turns out he's alive and somewhat well during The Beast, which as of right now, that game isn't out, so I couldn't tell you the rest. Haran Sports Contest. The place where the first game is set was supposed to have some kind of sports contest going on, just before the Haran virus ironically crossed the finish line first, leaving the place an infested, bloody mess. If you look around Haran for 5 minutes, you'll see more than enough of these posters advertising the upcoming event. If I have to look at this poster one more time in my playthrough, my eyes are probably going to jump out the sockets themselves because these are everywhere. Villador. Villador is the huge European-looking city that Dying Light 2 is set in, and we play in the more urban area of the place. Then heading into the center of the city, just like the first game, we see a lot of the place and its inhabitants, including but not limited to peacekeepers, zombies, and worst of all, the survivors. We'll cover that one soon though. It's probably the biggest city we'll see in a Dying Light game for now, at least, unless Dying Light 3 is ever a thing, with skyscrapers and large offices that tower over you in general, along with the GRE hospitals, and even the fast travel system
I wish I was doing that.
To be going underneath
so
the whole subway, and that's how Aiden would get around quickly, so it does a good job at showing the scale of this city. Dying Light tone shift. There was something about the
Don't
way
go to
the
sneak
first game
unless it's
presented
nighttime,
itself, both
basically.
tone and story-wise, that made it so grim. The game was bleak but oddly beautiful, watching the warm oranges of the sky and dulled colours blend together to make a striking and moving apocalypse that somehow still looked very impressive. And despite the game being a decade old, it holds up so well today. Which, you know, for how fast the gaming industry and the internet as a whole moves, that's basically ancient. An actual dinosaur era of time. I always loved how the sunrise and sunset would spread its colour all along Haran, as these two times of day were huge thematic presences in this cruel world, being people's only hope in the mornings, and as the sun would set and night would close in, their worst nightmare, as they would have to watch the only thing keeping the volatiles away fade over the horizon. Dying Light theme song mentioned? Sorry for my fluent Japanese, but I think you get what I'm saying. Then switch over to Dying Light 2. It's nothing like that, and I don't mean, oh, they only changed some of the graphics. No, this game looks, feels, and presents itself in complete opposition to the first game. Like a totally cool, rebellious 13-year-old trying their hardest to be different to how they were before. It's not just a phase. It was kind of a phase though, as Techland heard people's backlash about this and decided to make the game more gory, maybe to also rival Dead Island 2 at the time, and even added a filter to shift the colours of the game to resemble Dying Light 1's more gritty palette, and be much darker at night, because for some reason it never felt like night in number 2, just the late evening without putting the filter on. It's not that Dying Light 2 looks bad by any means, it's just that it didn't feel like what fans fell in love with, and strayed too far from what made it so captivating. Volatiles. We all know these monstrosities. We fear them deeply. These fast, special types of zombies are the ones that the sun keeps off the streets due to their odd weakness to the sun rays burning their blood-red flesh. Their jaw splits into these ant-like jaw things. Look at those chompers. They're quite tall and have the build of a protein guzzling gym bro. And I've got to say, this is one of the scariest designs I've seen in the games I've played. They mutated this way due to staying in the dark for too long. Unless they were just hiding away and pumping iron and swallowing chickens whole. These bastards are going to be your biggest problem for most of these games. And pretty much your entire runs if you mainly play on nightmare mode like myself. Once the sun goes down, watch out for or just go to sleep like a normal person. Aiden Caldwell, the guy you'll be playing as in the second game. He's alright, nothing special. In fact, a lot of people call him a soy boy for reasons we'll get into. But this man can parkour like he's in an intense round of Hexagon. Aiden is a pilgrim, people that would run across the country to deliver messages and stuff. He, however, is looking for his sister Mia, who was held captive and experimented on by a mustache-twirling villain named Walls, who did the same to him a while back when he was a kid too, which explains how he can practically turn into a UFO for a while whilst jumping around. And it seems to have made him borderline superhuman due to the rigorous testing he underwent. He also briefly snaps into a vicious viral-like state, or this is due to him being bitten at the beginning of the game by a volatile and his symptoms of infection briefly spike up. GRE, the Global Relief Effort, are a humanitarian organization that was supposed to be veterans at pushing back against dangerous outbreaks and crises. Although this time, they did a bit of an oopsie, and it may have accidentally been spreading. Yeah, the Haran virus, they've been known to handle it in a much more sinister way. Are you telling me big corporation is bad? Yes, I am. I know, shocking revelation. They would give those struggling for their lives just enough antizin to keep them bottlenecked into a survivalist lifestyle. Throughout the first game, they were constantly asking Crane to not help any of them, or even give at least one fuck to the people of Haran, and only to focus on the file they needed. They deliberately took down the survivors' call to help, showing that there were
I'm seeing glimpses of it behind my back. There's a Beth, and
even created the second strain that we see in Dying Light 2. So they seem like stinky bad guys to me. Be the Zombie. What a game mode. This was the PvP solution to the series that tasked one player to take on the tendrils of the Night Hunter, an OP zombie, even stronger and more fierce than the volatiles that we cower from. You would invade other players and both would go at each other around the open world, as a game of cat and mouse would ensue, although it feels a bit unfair to call it that, because sometimes the Night Hunter is the one that gets hunted. This will go on until the human team runs out of lives, deeming them the loser, or the humans successfully manage to destroy all of the volatile nests, making the Night Hunter take the L. This could be either a terrifying experience or surprisingly funny, especially if you had the boys with you. If the Night Hunter you were up against was actually a good player, you would be quaking in your little runner shoes, and if it was bad, it would be honestly comical, as you and your other mates would be cornering this guy, slapping him with bats and slicing him with machetes, making him your bitch. Runners.
That's fucking
the name
hilarious.
Of the riskiest job occupation in Haran. We see a nice little cinematic of a day on the job for these people in the Dying Light Good Night Good Luck trailer. The runners run and jump and climb to be able to effectively get around. This helps them get out of danger and be able to stay out of it. They scavenge resources to bring back, and by the time Dying Light 2 rolls around, those 22 years later, they're held as legends of the apocalypse. Kyle Crane himself becomes a runner for the tower and did such a good job, he made the rest of them look like pussies. Aiden getting punched. For some dumb reason, in Dying Light 2, there was a period of time where the game came out where in just about every cutscene, with Aiden talking to someone, it was almost some weird law of the world that it would end with him getting punched in the face. This wasn't only one or two times either. It was constant. Talking to some guy, bam. Hugging Luan, another one. Even the dashboard got one in. Come on. He'd be talking to someone and then you'd see some guy's fist fly towards the screen and Aiden would recoil back like a Looney Tunes character on a banana peel. It didn't help that some of the punches were telegraphed a business day in advance with the same wind-up of a 1920s cartoon, and then Aiden got made another man's bitch boy. It got so out of hand that you can find tons of posts on forums about this and full compilations on YouTube, which I'll play one here of the madness. I guess he put all of his points in defense and getting sucker punched. This only escalated further, and Techland actually addressed this, changing the way some of the cutscenes would end, with the pilgrim actually living up to his name and dodging some of them, instead of getting the testosterone slapped out of him. Ghazi. Ghazi is a strange guy. He seemed to have survived the initial Haran virus by some stroke of luck, as he doesn't go outside much. Maybe he was busy playing League or something. You meet him in one of the first side quests in the game. In fact, it might be the first one that you get pitched towards you. you, called Mother's Day, and I'm met with him refusing to give you antizin, which people desperately need back in the tower, because he's been saving it for his mother. Whilst talking to him, it becomes pretty clear that he's got some kind of mental disability. You do some running around for him, bringing him DVDs and chocolates that are now trivial from the outbreak, all to please his mum, because if mama ain't happy, nobody happy. At the end of the mission, you climb into Ghazi's place through the roof, since he won't let you in, and you finally see his mother. There's something weird about her, but I can't place my finger on it. Still though, what a fine woman all the same. We see Ghazi next to the world's best mother, as he crudely wrote on her chest, watching a static TV, which felt like some Candle Cove shit, bringing back memories. This gets even more baffling when you see that he's sat there completely content. We know nothing about Ghazi really, or what happened to him, making him one of the most notable and strangest encounters we've had in the series. Korek chest. Upon your adventures around the slums, you might see a little blue chest on a rooftop that can't be opened.
Yeah, it's again meant to be a very dark game.
But it can be opened by kicking it 50 times. Hey, don't complain, I'm sure your finger will hurt much less than Crane's foot probably does doing that.
Shit. Okay.
Once it's done and popped open, it will reveal a blueprint for a Korek machete. The early game is gonna breeze through zombies, although it's quite expensive to craft, and in Nightmare mode, it can't be used at all. The description for it is no crazy Soulsborne item description, but it openly states how this is for the developer's ease of access when testing the game. Reading, developers like to cheat when playing their own games. Korek likes to have everything under control, and this is his tool. So it would seem like this was made by or for a tester named Korek. Grapple hook change. At around the midpoint of the first game, you'll eventually receive a grapple hook that straight up defies the laws of physics in a game that has surprisingly good ones. It was notoriously known to make the game way easier, to the point where the parkour side of it stopped feeling as urgent or rewarding. It was mainly to help get around the Old Town map, which had all the giant buildings, but it was undeniably way too good. Well, in Dying Light 2, it seemed like Techland listened to people's criticism and added the grappling hook back in the game. But they did change it. Whilst the previous one was comparable to a glorified wall magnet that you'd expect Lucius Fox to have made, the new one is more stripped back, being a rope and hook you have to throw out and swing around like a Tesco value Spider-Man, acting as a way to spice up and enhance the parkour by using it to bridge together certain leaps and landings instead of replacing most of the movement. Plus, the skill gap it created meant you had to learn to master it, to know when to use it and properly leverage it to zip around the city. Loot Bridge. This was a well-known spot in Dying Light 1 where you could basically turn to it to go from rags to riches at the start of the game. I don't know if anyone else called it the Loot Bridge, but me and my mates did. One would ask if the other wanted to go to the Loot Bridge, and of course, the other would respond with an eager, yeah, because it was one of the best loot runs in the game.
Oh
if you
yeah, I
didn't
remember
have the
this
grappling
area.
hook or the Pizer suit, foreshadowing, you'd have your work cut out for you with having to push through a dense horde that can get you killed in seconds. And once you've done that, you then gotta climb to the top of the bridge and carefully, can't stress this bit enough, carefully is very slippy, walk down the supports that run down from the pillar. Once you get to the other side of the broken bridge, you'll be met with medical tents packed full of gauze, batteries, and other really useful crafting supplies, as well as a ton of medikits that you'll especially savor if you're on Nightmare mode. There's also a lineup of chests and police vans ready to be lockpicked for melee weapons, ammo, mods, and maybe even guns if you're lucky, like you just got to the bottom of a Skyrim dungeon. Taking a look at the place, it seems like people tried to get away desperately due to the outbreak and it collapsed, and the remaining people couldn't get across, which is how they met with this terrible fate. The medical tents and police vehicles were most likely a form of crowd control or to help fend off the infected. Pizer suit. The Pizer suit is a nice wink and nod to the Tanuki suit from Super Mario Bros. 3, a certified hood classic. In Old Town, you can find a small Mario-style pipe across the rooftops, and when you enter it, you're brought into a first-person perspective of a
that's right, I remember this.
of a Mario level.
I actually remember
cool.
this.
The Goombas are little zombies that you can squash and everything. Good times. At about halfway through the level, you can find the Pizer suit blueprint, which is pretty blurred. first. Like I said earlier, it's like the Tanuki suit, which is the animal suit of the same name that you can find in the Mario game. It lets you briefly glide around the level and has got to be one of my favourite power-ups in the series. Translated over to Dying Light, it's a similar thing, except you don't wear the skin of a Tanuki, you instead just get imbued with Red Bull or something, because Crane will awkwardly raise his arms up when used in midair, and you'll be gliding. The catch is, you still take fall damage if you use it for too long, pretty much insta-killing you in most cases. In fact, you can't really use this like a Breath of the Wild glider at all, or anything, without splatting on the floor like a Happy Wheels character. I think it was meant to be used more for closing gaps that you wouldn't be able to get to by only jumping, so it's a nice little traversal tool if used right. And believe me, you're gonna get it wrong a lot before you start using it right. Safe to say, it does take some getting used to. Also, this thing looks so fucking funny in co-op, it gets me every time.
Climb up as soon as I hit thingy.
Crane's collection. At the beginning of the game, we see Crane get given a bedroom in the tower, his own little space where you can change outfits and sleep. Ow! My headset just hit my shoulder. It was like my collarbone. Critical damage. Just a normal safe room, right? No. Most people know that throughout your time spent in Haran, as you experience more stories, do more quests, and discover more Easter eggs, Crane's room begins to change depending on what you've done and found, amassing a grand collection of trinkets and other little things around his room, like what
so
Bully
thanks for
did,
everyone
which
that
I
hung
loved.
out. Was this a shorter stream today? So, well, not today actually. This is the first part of the stream, but just a short one this morning. I'll be going to the gym. And after the gym, I'm just going to do a quick grocery shop. And then we will be back with Dying Light the Beast. I'll probably be doing at least like a 6 to 7 hour of it, because I'm keen for this game. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, everyone. I'm going to pop off and go to the gym. Take it care and be true to yourself. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Mwah. Big smooches.